After a 3-day break to recuperate and wait for yet another storm to pass, my dad and grandfather headed towards mile 206 in the pre-dawn light. That's right, my dad skipped 55 miles. San Jacinto's trails are closed due to dangerous conditions, and there are no obvious alternative routes. Besides, Mount San Jacinto looks scary. It was windy, rainy, and downhill until he passed under Interstate 10. The trail gradually got steeper. He passed by windmill farms and later right through one. He even saw 3 semis that each carried a giant windmill blade. From there, he entered the area around a Whitewater Preserve. He had to make his first really dicey water crossing. The Whitewater River is well named after crossing Whitewater. He joined up with Mission Creek and followed that until camp. In the 2-mile stretch, he had to cross Mission Creek 9 times. The swollen creek, which you could normally just step across, was taxing at each crossing. It also damaged the trail and made it impossible to just follow the trail. Bushwhacking and route finding was required. After a long day, thanks to his recent rest, he was able to set up camp at mile 229. While he set up at camp, he got hailed on. During the night, his wet socks froze solid, and the frost was all over his tent. He didn't make nearly as much mileage the next day. The bushwhacking, route finding, and elevation gain the next day meant he only got to mile 238, just 9.7 miles according to Far Out. In 2 days, he went from 2,000 feet elevation to 7,400 feet elevation. He had a few serious snow patches and even a couple where he had to pull out his ice axe. His campsite was the last one before he left Mission Creek and entered the snow for real. After his tent was set up, he crawled in a sleeping bag to stay warm and rest, even though the sun was still up. A couple and a single hiker joined his camp after he was tucked in. I guess they had the same idea, camp on the last patches of dirt before the eternal snow began. My dad was too tired and comfortable to be social. His camp was apparently visited by a raccoon during the night. The raccoon didn't mess with my dad's tent, but perhaps investigated other tents. Not just patches of snow anymore, but basically continuous snow, until he reached Highway 38 in Big Bear at mile 250. He stopped at Coon Camp Cabin, an abandoned summer camp from the looks of it. There were some snow-covered picnic tables for visitors that were maintained by the Forest Service. He opted to eat lunch in one of the abandoned cabins. All the doors and windows were missing. Apparently, thru-hikers have used these cabins to make it through the recent storms based on the graffiti. Instead of dealing with the thin, sloping, snow-covered PCT, he followed the Ironwood Road from these abandoned cabins. The snow was deep, so the road was easier to follow, although road was a bit of an exaggeration. It was really meant for ATVs and maybe motorcycles. The road hooked up to Highway 38. From there, he road walked to the Big Bear Motel 6, or he would have if not for a trail angel. A retired wildland firefighter picked him up, and she drove him the last 8 miles. She said he was the first thru hiker she'd seen this year. After a shower, he walked across the street to Wyatt's Grill and Saloon, where he enjoyed a big plate of spaghetti and country line dancing. Well, he watched line dancing in the Oktoberfest-style hall. When he was planning his thru hike, he was concerned about snakes. Through the first 700 miles or so, it's desert, but snakes are only active above 70 degrees Fahrenheit. He has yet to experience temperatures like that, so it seems silly to include. Snake count, 0. Trail stop checklist. Cabazon, check. Big Bear City, check.